In the small Nigerian village of Ejime, where the earth cracked dry beneath bare feet and the skies roared without mercy, a girl named Ndidi was born beneath the thatched roof of a mud hut. Her name meant patience, and patience was all her mother, Mama Ifeoma, had ever had. Mama Ifeoma was a seamstress, not by trade, but by desperation. After her husband died in a motorbike accident on the highway to Enugu, she stitched her life back together the only way she knew. One broken thread at a time. Her hands were rough with needle scars, her eyes tired from oil lamp nights, but her back never bent. Ndidi was her only child. A quiet girl with flame-colored eyes that never blinked during thunderstorms. At 6 years old, she began fetching water from the community well before sunrise. At 7, she could cook a family meal from scratch. But her secret was learning. She craved knowledge the way other children craved sweet mangoes. Every day, Ndidi would stop by the low, dusty wall of Ejime Primary School. Since girls were rarely enrolled, she wasn't allowed to attend. Still, she'd press her ear to the cracks and mimic the teacher's voice. Numbers, letters, colonial history. She absorbed it all like dry soil drinking rain. One Tuesday afternoon, while the children recited multiplication tables, a tall man in brown trousers stopped mid-lecture. Mr. Chukwuma, the new headmaster, stepped out of the classroom and saw a tiny figure crouched behind the hibiscus bush. Their eyes met. "You there?" he called. "What's your name?" She hesitated. "Ndidi." "Sir." "And what are you doing outside instead of inside?" Her voice trembled. "I want to learn. I come here every day." There was silence. Then he simply said, "Bring your mother tomorrow." The next morning, Ndidi stood beside Mama Ifeoma in front of the school board. Most of the village elders scoffed. "Education is for boys," they muttered. "Girls marry and cook." But Mr. Chukwuma's voice was firm. "This child has a mind sharper than my ruler. Let her in, or you will regret the day you turned her away." Reluctantly, they agreed. Ndidi was allowed to sit at the back of the class. The desks were splintered. The books were older than her. Her uniform was a faded donation, 3 sizes too big, but none of it mattered. She was in. But this was only the beginning. Jealousy stirred in the village. Boys mocked her. Girls whispered behind her back. One night, someone threw ashes at their doorstep, a sign of bad omen. Rumors spread that Mama Ifeoma had taken her to a native priest to make her smarter than the boys. Still, Ndidi endured, not with rage, but with quiet fire. And deep inside, she made a silent promise. "One day, I will be so great, they'll write my name in the clouds." 2 years had passed since Ndidi first stepped into the back of that crowded classroom. She had gone from the quiet girl in a hand-me-down uniform to the top of every exam board. Her teachers were stunned. Her fellow students were divided. Half admired her brilliance, the other half whispered about dark charms and curses. But no one could ignore her anymore. One humid Friday, under the shadow of a mango tree near the school, assembly ground, Mr. Chukwuma summoned Ndidi and her mother to his office. "I nominated her for the Unity Scholars Program," he said, sliding a crisp envelope across the desk. "It's a national award. Only 5 students from the entire Southeast get chosen each year. Full scholarship, boarding, tuition, books, everything." Mama Ifeoma blinked like she hadn't heard him right. "Sir, is this real?" Mr. Chukwuma nodded. "She'll be moving to Lagos if she's selected, and she's already on the final shortlist." Ndidi's hands trembled. Lagos? That was another world entirely. Skyscrapers, electricity that stayed on, classrooms with computers. She had only seen those things in newspaper clippings and in the tattered pages of donated encyclopedias. 3 weeks later, the letter came. "Congratulations. Miss Ndidi Ifeoma, you have been awarded the Unity Scholars Full National Scholarship to Queen Amina College, Lagos. Mama Ifeoma cried that day, not the way she cried when her husband died, but soft, strange tears, half joy, half fear. News spread like wildfire. Some villagers celebrated her, others looked on with cold suspicion. One elder declared in the square, "This is how it starts. First, she leaves for the city. Then she forgets her roots. No girl from Ejime should be sent away alone." But Mama Ifeoma silenced them all with one sentence. "If you're afraid of her becoming more than this village, then you were never rooting for her in the first place." Ndidi left for Lagos with a single tin trunk, 3 dresses, and a heart full of dreams. The city was overwhelming. Noise, lights, people of all colors and accents. Her school was massive. Girls with braided hair spoke fluent English, wore polished shoes, and talked about vacations to London and Nairobi. At first, Ndidi shrank in their shadows. Her village accent, her plain clothes, her silence, they made her a target. Some girls mocked her, others ignored her. But once again, she let her work speak. By the end of the term, she was top in mathematics, English, and science. She earned the nickname Village Genius, meant as an insult, but she wore it like a crown. She started sending her mother money from small tutoring jobs she did for wealthier students. Every month, she wrote letters, real letters on brown paper, telling her mother about computers, libraries, and electricity that never blinked. But even in her rising glory, there was a shadow growing. A girl in her class named Ngozi, the daughter of a powerful politician, had taken notice of Ndidi, not with admiration, but with envy. Behind her designer smile, she was plotting something. Ndidi didn't know it yet, but her biggest challenge wasn't behind her. It was just a few footsteps ahead. Ndidi stood on the podium, receiving the Best Overall Student Award for the 3rd term in a row. The school hall roared with polite applause, but not everyone was clapping. Ngozi, seated in the front row in her designer blazer, clapped only twice, slow, deliberate, cold. That night, while most girls celebrated with cake and music in the dormitory, Ndidi sat by the window, writing another letter to Mama Ifeoma. "Mama, they clap for me now, but I feel their silence louder than their words. Still, I carry you in every page I turn. I will not let your sweat be wasted." She folded the letter, unaware that Ngozi was watching her from the shadows. Ngozi had grown up in privilege. Her father was a senator. She never lacked anything, except the one thing Ndidi had, pure brilliance. And that brilliance in a girl from a mud village embarrassed her. The next day, the scandal broke. In the school assembly, the principal held up a sheet of printed emails. "These messages," she said, voice tight with disappointment, "suggest that Ndidi Ifeoma has been involved in academic malpractice. She allegedly hacked the school network with help from an outsider to alter her scores." Gasps echoed. Whispers swirled like a rising storm. Ndidi stood there frozen, blinking, numb. "I didn't do this," she said, stepping forward. "I've never even touched a computer outside of class." But the evidence was stacked. Someone had planted messages from a cyber cafe linked to her school ID. Her dorm locker had a flash drive mysteriously tucked in a shoe she never wore. Ngozi stood among the crowd, feigning shock. The school launched an inquiry. Her scholarship was suspended, and she was sent home for probation. Back in Ejime, the celebration banner was still pinned on the wall of her mother's hut when she arrived. Villagers watched her return with confusion. Some shook their heads. "We said it. These girls get small light and they burn it all." Mama Ifeoma didn't ask any questions. She just hugged her daughter. For days, Ndidi wouldn't come out of the house. Her dreams had shattered in silence. She refused to eat. She refused to speak. Her books gathered dust. Then, one morning, she found her mother hand-washing school uniforms outside, humming softly. When Ndidi asked why, her mother replied, "Because you're going back." Ndidi stared. "But they think I'm a cheat." Her mother's face was fierce. "You are not what they say. You are what you do next. Will you stay buried because they pushed you, or will you rise because I raised a fighter?" Something stirred inside her. That night she reopened her books. She began to study again, not for exams, but to prove to herself that her worth never needed approval. Then an unexpected twist came. 2 months later, a young tech journalist investigating school corruption traced the false cybercafe records and discovered the login credentials used to frame Ndidi had been purchased anonymously from an account linked to Ngozi's cousin. A storm broke in Lagos. Ngozi's father tried to cover it up, but the evidence was airtight. Ngozi was expelled. Ndidi received a public apology from the school. Her scholarship was fully reinstated, but something inside her had changed. She no longer wanted applause. She wanted impact, and her next move would stun even her own mother. Ndidi returned to Queen Amina College not as the humiliated village girl, but as a phoenix, risen. Though her name had been cleared, whispers still clung to corners of the hallway, but this time she walked with her chin high. She didn't speak much. She didn't need to. Her books, her grades, her sharp questions in class, they said everything. By her final year, she had become more than just a top student. She was mentoring younger girls, especially those from poor backgrounds. She started a free evening class in the school library called Backbench Brilliance for anyone who felt overlooked or out of place. But the biggest surprise came during Career Week. Representatives from international universities flooded the school, looking for bright minds to sponsor. Ndidi sat quietly through presentations from Harvard, Oxford, Cape Town, and more. All her teachers believed she'd accept one of those offers, but she didn't. Instead, during her graduation speech, she stunned everyone. "I am grateful," she began, "for every opportunity that took me out of the mud hut where I was born. But I have made a decision. I will not be leaving Nigeria. Not yet." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Even Mama Ifeoma, dressed in her finest Ankara wrapper, sat up in disbelief. "I will be returning to Ejime to start the first community tech and learning center there. I want every child who listens from behind walls to be welcomed to the front row. I want every girl who's told she's not enough to look in a mirror and see a warrior." There was a stunned silence, then applause, louder than any she had ever heard before. Teachers wept, reporters scribbled. A camera crew from Channels TV asked for an interview on the spot. Ndidi returned to Ejime a week later. But she didn't return with only a box of clothes. She returned with funding from a local foundation, books donated from 3 universities, and a laptop library in her name. The Ndidi Ifeoma Learning Hub opened on the very spot where the old village meeting hall once stood. Her first students were 7 girls and 5 boys, including some who used to mock her. Mama Ifeoma became the center's caretaker, and Mr. Chukwuma retired early to join her as a volunteer mentor. One evening, as the sun dipped over the fields, a local newspaper reporter asked Ndidi, "Why didn't you take the scholarship abroad?" She smiled, watching a barefoot boy solve an equation on the chalkboard. "Because the clouds I wanted my name written in were always above Ejime," she said, "and what's the point of greatness if it never comes home?" As she locked up the learning center that night, Ndidi received a letter in the post. It was old, torn at the corners. It read, "To whoever finds this, I am Ndidi Ifeoma. I'm from Ejime. I don't know if this will ever reach the world, but if it does, tell them I exist. Tell them I'm trying. Tell them I will rise." written in the back of an old math book 5 years ago. It was the same note she had scribbled and tucked away in the library's old books before leaving for Lagos years ago. Someone had found it, saved it, and returned it. She held it to her chest. She had risen, and she had kept her oath.